Hello and welcome to the first battle report for AAA Wargaming on the Welsh Championships, which was held at Cardiff. Disclaimer: I am doing this out of turn. I've had a few I've had a few friendlies up till now, but actually, what I wanted to do was get these out when it's fresh in my head, so I could do the detail on this under pressure, and then I can slow down time, bring back the friendlies leading up to this. So, what was really good, if you hadn't seen already, is it's run by Rob Cousins at the new Firestorm Storm Gaming. It's brilliant venue, very welcoming, good food. It was just awesome. The whole weekend was fantastic. But also we did some 4 brand new deployments and mixed in the objectives, but it was really fun. I hope they come out in a pack. I'm sure I'm going to be keeping them just in case we want to do something a bit random, friendly. This is something definitely to bring up. So I think so. I'll go through my list first before we go through the actual thing. So from last list, I didn't have my dragon, and one thing I wanted to take with me was my dragon because I like the model. So I have a choice. Either I take a Forest Prince and I take a Tree Father Ancient, or I take an Avatar as my general and take the Druid on the Dragon. Last time I ran this was Tech and no, cancel. Last time I ran this was Masters Open and it went okay. And yeah, very much. The other thing I wanted to try again was the Pathfinders over the Sentinels. I just feel the Sentinels are really good if you've got big monsters and especially if you've got demons because you can go hunting those demons. But everything else, I really do prefer Pathfinders because that +2 to hit I think is so important when you're trying to hunt stuff down. And then the last thing, the problem is if you want to take Pathfinders, I can't fit in Kestrels. So either it's Pathfinders and Wild Huntsmen under this list or Kestrels and Sentinels. And I used Kestrels and Sentinels last time under Masters Open. It worked well, but I just wanted to have a look at the Wild Huntsmen. They seem to be doing really strong at the moment. And they're actually really low grade in points, so that's why. Otherwise, I went back to Spear Hunter's Honor. I wanted to see if I could get distracting to work with entwining roots and hereditary, but it does mean because of the points, I'm right up against it, and I can't include that second ether icon. Well, I could if I dropped Pathfinder, but oh no, can I? I should double check. But either way, I don't mind that. I prefer potion of strength. Oh no, I can't because otherwise, because the point different, you choose potion of strength or ether icon. I like having potion of strength just in case they get caught out on their own and I have to use it against a monster or something like that. It just gives with the 3+ ages a bit of a punch there. Otherwise, I had a choice with the magical heirloom. You can't take magical heirloom and crystal ball because they're both dominant. So the choice is binding scroll and crystal ball, or Talisman of the Void, or Magical Heirloom and Binding Scroll. And I thought the importance bit here, because I'm not running any Briar Maidens or in a second Adept, is I take Magical Heirloom just to make sure I have those 5 spells. I also really like Forest Embrace. It gives you that option of just having 2, especially with the Druid as a master, of having 2 forest spells, which I think are really important for the Blade Dancers. It's one of those things I was getting caught out with last, where only having 1 forest spell, every now and again they were just caught out of position. So, trying a few different things, but I was really quite happy with the list. In terms of objective, it was secure target, and the first map was a really interesting one. I'll go on to that later, but I was paired against Darren Williamson as Empire Sonstal, and if you've watched the previous battle reports, Darren and I have a bit of a history. Good fun one, but I tend to come out worse, especially late games. So let's see if it happens on this one. But I think he's definitely beaten me more than I beat him. In fact, the first time we ever played, I think, was Cardiff in the old venue 2019, where he pumped me 14-6 or 16-4 at the end. Yeah, it was game 5, and he ran over me, I think. But it was yeah. But since then we've had some fun games, so let's see what happens. I've gone through my list. So this was it. So we had this really funky deployment. So you either had with secure targets, so 2 pennies drops. So you either had deployment B, so you had a really good flanks and narrow center, or deployment A. Quite frankly, I wasn't that bothered about either. I remember we were analysing this, it was really fun and thinking about this. And it was, right, ideally, do you want to split the army or do you want to keep it central? And I realised I didn't actually mind, so I don't mind playing wide. So I was quite happy with Zone B or Zone A. And I did a few practice games, and I can make this work to my advantage. Yes, deployment A is, you're quite narrow, but actually, because I'm silver now, so I'm quite mobile, I don't care. I can redeploy very quickly and go from one side, and I can, either he can be boxed into a corner, I can keep him there, or he's split up and I can take one side or the other. But also, if I was Zone B and he was Zone A, I still don't care because he's not rapid and I can maneuver very quickly to make sure that he can't just take out one of my sides. So I think I had an advantage in deployment. In terms of objective, what we're doing is secure hands, so it's secure target. So your usual thing, you put one down, you put the other one down 24 inches. But the addition bit, so once you've deployed, once one player is deployed, count up the non-deployed players' units. Characters count as one still, so usual things, and scouting and ambush don't count. And then you multiply, and then for each objective, you multiply, you take 2 multiplied by X inches, where X is the amount of non-deployed players on deployed units. So if you deploy your army completely and the opponent's got 10 drops, you take 10 times by 2 and 20 inches, and you move each objective 20 inches. So hold that thought. So dropping for first potentially is really bad. So it's really fun, this one, because it kind of forces you to, if you want to challenge the objective, you have to just alternate drop. So it stops that whole British meta thing of I must deploy for first. I must go first whether I'm shooting or combat. I want to do that. So it was a really cool way of doing it, looking at it. And the deployment makes it really interesting well. So yeah, and you can move them closer together so you can start breaking the 24-inch rule and the 12-inch rule. So that's why it's quite important, especially when you look at Darren's list. That and the two big things that made me really quite concerned: 2 blocks of Imperial Guard and a steam tank and a big block of electoral cavalry with some characters that can multiple out. So he's got some really interesting magic, but I think just the first two. So let's start with magic. The arcane engine, so he's got that distracting bold and perception of strength bound sword, but also a div adept. So not great for me, primarily because he's always going to take a lot of shooting. He can do rerolls to hit, which is not great. He's then got a master in alchemy, so Quicksilver Lash is terrifying, and more importantly, Glory of Gold, because he's got he's got 2 flaming standards on his Imperial Guard. So even if I go into, and with perception strength, it's just dodgy for my tree, my dragon, anything. It mitigates my healing waters, so that's why I was like, I can't take healing waters, there's no point. Sorry, I just realised there's marshals there. So he's then got an Inquisitor, which is terrifying, so he's got 5 attacks because of Hammer of the Witches. A Blessed Steel, so he's +1 strength, so he's strength 5, and then he's also got multi-wound 2 and lethal strike. Great. He's then got a martial hand weapon with death warrant, so I think he's got battle focus on his unit if he hits, which is probably there. I can't remember what Imperial Steel does, but it gives him good armor. And then a martial BSB with black steel, which does some other stuff. So effectively, he's probably going to put them both. He can either split them, but most likely he puts them in the Warrior Weapon Imperial Guard, and that unit just becomes unbreakable. And my thought process was he's going to put the Inquisitor in the cavalry just to give them a bit more leadership, and it just means their punch is really quite high. And then he's got lots of little bits of shooting, which can hide the wizards, some firefighters to get annoying, and a steam tank. So my thoughts looking at this is, do I drop for first and lose the objective? And I thought no, because if he does that, all he has to do is sit there, move the objectives onto where his Imperial Guard pretty much are. He keeps a flank with the Electrical Cavalry plus the Inquisitor and just holds them there. And then he just uses his magic and light shooting to just whittle away at some odd points. And to even draw, I'd have to get that to get the 1100. And by the end of it, because of how many fireballs they can take per wizard, and it's replicable now, which is not helpful, I just don't think I can compete with that. I think I lose overall and I start getting to really bad. So I decided early, I'm not going to drop. I'm going to trade with him. And I remember thinking in the game is I somehow worked it out where if I let him start, I will only, because he's got two more drops than me. I will only have one unit. He'll only have one unit left. It was actually the other way around. So because of my scouts, pathfinders, I have 8 drops. He has 10. So actually, what I should have done is drop my unit first, which means he could have only moved it once. Just as a spoiler, I get that wrong. Anyway, but that's my thought. So my thought was get rid of the writers, try and see if I can get his light infantry down and get rid of his wizard. Avatar goes into steam tank, kills that. Line up the blade dancers and basically keep the Imperial Guard busy, and use the pathfinders then to start going after his other units. See if I can hold off his electrical cavalry with my wild huntsman, and dragon runs around, and dryads try and look busy but don't get killed, and that's kind of thing. And see if I can sneak the objective at the end. In terms of spells, I think it was good selection here. I took for 2 forests just in case, so I could be more aggressive with my blade dancers. And also, Spirit of the Wood is quite useful as a cheap sort of break the spirit, especially for his big blocks. I then chose Stone Squin. I didn't choose Healing Waters because of it's flaming stuff. The only thing I should have thought about, I think, is because I'll show you the terrain, which side I should have gone for Master of Earth rather than Entwining Roots. I think that was probably my big mistake, because then I have another shooting spell and it makes him choose about which ones to do. And it's also very useful going after his caddy wagon, the adept wagon. I'll show you why. Empire Somstall, he went for Gloria Gold. Yep, right one. He has to go for that because the number of flaming banners. Quicksilver Lash, good one. Word of Iron, yep, absolutely. That seems like a good one because suddenly he becomes it's like his shield. He could have parry plus or 1+ save effectively with his Imperial Guard. And then Fireball, just because of the sheer range, it just means 36 inches range plus the attribute. It just makes that very dangerous, and he can replicate it, and it's just really good. And then Stars Align and Perception Strength, so nothing new. I think because he's got the caddy wagon, that's all fine. I think that's the right choice. So this was it. So looking at the sides, so he got to pick sides and he chose this side already. So this is why I should have chosen Master of Earth. He's got a relatively narrow deployment and he's got 2 impassables. Now I always think with Druidism, play your terrain, and then you've only got that there, so 12 inches from there and 12 inches from there. So actually it's not a big range, while 18 to there and 18 to there means his buff wagon is hard to fire. I can shoot into other stuff. So my only real problem is I shouldn't have taken Entwining Roots, and I should have taken Master of Earth. And I think that was my big mistake with my magic. Otherwise, I've got ruins here, a wall, a hill, and this here, which would have been great because the objective is there. But obviously, the number of flaming banners he's got and everything else mitigates it. He chose that side and center just because he wants everyone in one area, which is fine. And also he thinks he's put this here and it has obstructed my deployment zone quite badly on the left here. So I've got an impassable on my left hand side, which kind of breaks up. And I think he was looking at this going, his thought process, because he admitted it, is I'm going to drop first and I'm going to be on this side. And it means he can happily counter deploy and keep me on a narrow front win this gap, where his blocks, so from his left flank all the way to sort of just past the right center, where he can keep me. At this point, I was agreeing with it mentally, but I also put my forest here. So what I wanted to do was move the forest here, so that I can have a big block of Dryads there, use the wall in the center for distracting, and basically challenge that one, whilst also use some Wild Huntsman on this to zone this objective, and then maybe move up my Blade Dancers and start mucking about here, or maybe a big character. As it was, I let him drop first, and I'll tell you how it all went. Sorry. So this is partway through the objective. So the first one he dropped was, I think, this unit here. No, it was writers. I think it was writers. So he dropped the writers here, and I went, okay, cool. So I dropped these Heath Hunters here because I think I was thinking on my right. So I was thinking, yep, I haven't given everything away. My Heath Hunters are far enough away that if he does get first turn, because it's going to be a dice off, I can keep them back here. I can move forward. I can use Vanguard. It doesn't matter. He then dropped one of his units, so his militia in the centre more. So again, he's not giving much away. I then deployed my other Heath Hunters and deployed them here on the left behind the impassable. So this is where they've got a bit of cover, but I can easily move out of here. I'm not blocking in Vanguard, or I can move back. I'm not blocking any of my scoring units from getting into these really narrow bits in the centre to go after this objective here. So I think this is one of those questions: is should I have put this all the way over here, but then on the left? Now my logic was no, because all he has to do is put an Imperial Guard block on his right, move in front, and I'm having some serious issues to try and get there. So I think actually I'm still happy with where I place them, because it means I can maneuver around him whilst not giving him the objective. He then places his night bus. This is interesting. I was surprised he put them down first, quite early on, and I was like, okay, fine, cool. So I then counter deployed with this unit of Dryades here. Again, I'm giving myself options to go for the right-hand objective or the left-hand objective. So I've got a unit Dryades on my right-hand side here. No question. No, first I dropped the Wild Huntsman. So I dropped the Wild Huntsman here in counter because they can be quite maneuverable. They aren't bothered by the water feature, so actually it's quite a bonus. Then he deployed this unit of crossbows here, and I was like, okay, I've now got to. The two units I want to hold off are the Dryads. So the three units I'm thinking of holding off here, I want to leave for the last minute, are the Dryads themselves, the big unit, because they're quite mobile. The Tree Father Ancient and my Dragon, because I want to be able to make sure that I can actually combat with the Steam Tank. And the Blade Dancers, because the Blade Dancers is pretty critical in terms of his capability. So then I just deployed both my small Dryad units, one each side, and he started competing with, just to make sure. So he dropped his Marksman slightly right, then he dropped his Imperial Guard. So other than that, I was starting to see his battle line here. So I kind of realised his other Imperial Guard were going to be in the centre, straight up and going for the centre objective, and his Knights and other Imperial Guard were going to go for the right one. So I was pretty happy with that. I could understand that. I will go through the rest of my deployment, but I'll say. So what he did then is I put my Blade Dancers down. I was like, okay, I can put my Blade Dancers down here. I can move into the forest in the centre, and I haven't really given anything away. He then puts his Imperial Guard down because he thinks I'm putting my big block of Dryads on this side, and he thinks he's got me pinned and everything. I then go, no, and put my big Dryads over here on the left. And my reasoning is I can use the hill to advance. I don't care if his Steam Tank comes into him, because I can get across, heal them, do everything I need to. And it fixes, he had the choice, fix his Team Tank, or this could come in sideways and threaten this objective. So I'm really happy with that. So I completely outwitted him in two parts, because he once thought I was going to drop, didn't drop, and two, he thought my Dryads were going to be on the right and I was going to be boxed in. And I think if I'd done that, it would have been quite dangerous. By putting him on the left, I've split his forces. He can't put his Steam Tank there, and now I'm pretty happy. Yeah, so now he's got to. I can maintain that, and then what happens is I put my Pathfinders down behind here. The reason I didn't put them quite far up is because I can't guarantee first turn. If I put them in here, he's got two fireballs that I just can tear them apart even before they start, and they're only leadership discipline 8, so they might run off the board. And then the other part is I put my avatar on the left facing the Steam Tank. So the idea is between the two units of Dryads on the left, the small and the big one, the Heath Hunters, I can trap it and make sure the Steam Tank can get killed before it does any more damage. And then the other part is my Dragon is over this side, on the right, just to support the Wild Huntsman, the Pathfinders and the Blade Dancers, and make sure I can threaten on the right hand side and stop him having an easy time of getting the objectives. So I was pretty happy with the deployment. The only thing, yeah, and that was it. Um, I still think I've got a massive disadvantage with deployment, so I'm fighting an uphill battle, and this is going to be it's going to be difficult to retain points with 2 fireballs, um, and all that, like shooting, whilst also trying to get engaged and attrit him, so it's going to be difficult. But onwards and upwards. So my first turn. So I think going from left to right, so what I did, so I had no charges. So what I've done on the left is I've moved my big unit of Dryades up behind the hill, so he could see me or couldn't see me. I don't think he could see me. I think I moved right up to there in ranks. So he would have to come over the hill with his tank to get me. No, I must have moved up full pace. So I moved up to the hill because I didn't want anyone hiding behind. I wasn't concerned if his steam tank went into them because I had set up this counter charge. It was a bit far away, but I could have moved forward. And I think in 2 turns with grinds, they're right next to the hill. Maybe I could have forced through a stone skin on the left, and it just means they're res 6 or res 7, and suddenly that tank isn't doing much to them. I've moved the Dryades up here, the small unit to support. They're out of range of the steam tank, so yeah, he can't even get there on a 5d3 or something like that. So they're out of range. They can move forward to chaff if he doesn't get in, and then I've set him up nice with the tree father on the left. The other part is I've got the pathfinders behind the small unit of Dryades on the left. I have done, and the other pathfinder unit is on the right, behind the blade dancers. And my target is his unit of militia in the center with the alchemy master in. I'm hoping between them and the heath hunters, because I've moved them into the center, one's in front of the dragon on the slight right and one's on the left behind the pathfinders, is that I can whittle them down. Turns out I can't move the 2 unit of heath hunters weren't in range, so I have to choose other targets. But 19 pathfinders, I might get lucky and maybe I can get them to run. Unlikely with all that discipline and reroll, but it's still possible. Otherwise, my Dryades on the right, small unit, doesn't really move up much, but my Blade Dancer just moved to the edge of the forest so that I can threaten his stuff coming forward. I'm not too bothered about the shooting in the centre because he'll be long range plus, even with accuracy, so -2 to hit on them because of soft cover and hard target 1. I also move the Wild Huntsman hip here to threaten these 2 to stop them moving forward at the moment and give them something to worry about. The one thing I didn't check, come back to bite me, is this. I should have put them out 24 inches of range, but I didn't. They are in, so that's a spoiler alert. Otherwise, in Magic, but otherwise I was pretty happy. I was dominating the board. I'd moved up aggressively, and it stopped him rushing forward to go and grab the objective because he can only move at 4 inches, and you see he's on the right hand one. He's moved it on the right towards his knights, so he didn't move it sort of diagonally left towards his Imperial Guard as I thought he should have. He's moved it further away from me and that way, but it just means that he's got to come into my threat range of the Wild Huntsman on the right, and I'm pretty happy taking one of them, or at least decimating the Imperial Guard unit and possibly taking the Knights at full strength. And then in the centre, he can't move forward because he'll get countercharged by both the Tree Father, the Blade Dancers, potentially even the Dragon as well in the centre. And I think the 3 units onto that unit of Greatswords, even with the characters, just doesn't go well because any of the Dryades coming in. Yeah, it's just not good, and he doesn't want to do that yet. So I've mitigated him moving forward aggressively first one. Ooh. In terms of magic, the only one I got off is on the entwining roots up on the cannon. I think I got a Koken thrown off, but either way, he's got -2 to hit, so it wasn't great for him. No, I didn't get Koken thrown off because it's not there, so I only got -1 to hit on the thing, and then I believe I also got Stone Skin off on the Avatar because I can see that. In terms of shooting, I do a lot of damage, so you can see it from the Pathfinders and everything. I shot off that small unit of militia down to 2, but I didn't finish it off, so the mage is going to want to run into another unit, but at least that's one less unit he can hide in, and they're probably going to move away, so that's some sort of mitigation I've done. I think that's it. Yep, that's a close look at that. In terms of Empire of Sonstal, turn 2, so we can see what he's done here is no charges. He kept his marksman there because he realised they're within 24 of there, and he's given them accurate. So now they're hitting on. They don't get punishment for long range, so they're hitting on 4s, and they'll be wounding on 3s against this my unit Wild Huntsman on the right. He's moved up his knights in preparation for there not being that many Wild Huntsmen left, and his Imperial Guard. So what he's done here is he's quite happy to be charged here because he's going to trigger a frenzy check. And the idea is they charge them, kill some, hold, and then he attacks on the right with the knights. What he didn't realize is I can choose who to frenzy check against and who to charge as long as they're in range. But he moved because he moved both of them in range, and he didn't need to. He's made a mistake there as well because he's given me the option. Other than that, he's moved his greatswords up, but not aggressively because yes, he doesn't want to get charged by all the world from me. So he's still not challenging for the objective. And otherwise, he's just moved his wizards up there. So he's moved his alchemy wizard into the small unit of the unit of marksman, and he's got his other one there. So they're preparing some fireballs and quicksilver lash. On the left, on my left, his right, he's moved the steam tank up, and he's really going for it on this side here. He's really having a look at the dryads. He didn't manage to get there. He's not blocking me off, so I can still move past him, which is really, really useful. And then further round on the left, you can see the Reiters just staring at the behind my dryads. I was really surprised at that. I thought he'd be more aggressive and trying to go after the Pathfinders. But yeah, no. And then he's on his back, he's got some crossbowmen that are lining up the dryads. So the dryads are going to take some casualties, but other than that, I'm not really that bothered. Magic, he gets 2 of my Pathfinders off with a fireball. He shoots off 1 dryad with the Reiters. He shoots off 2 dryads in the small unit on the left with the crossbows at the back there. He does shoot some other dryads off, and this was it. So he shoots, and I got quite lucky. He shoots 3 of the Wild Huntsmen off on this side. So I've gone from unit 7 to 4. That was my mistake, because if he'd moved, he'd have been unwieldy and wouldn't have done. I didn't need to do that. That was it. I didn't need to push at the moment. I just need to be in range of the objective. So I think this is some bad play from me on there. So on my right, I'm down to 4 Wild Huntsmen. Not the end of the world, so they're still threatening. Right. As you can see, my Wild Huntsmen are gone, and after the last trick. So firstly, this is a good picture. I fail my frenzy check. I decide if I go into the Imperial Guard from what I discussed last turn, yeah, I kill a load, but I don't do anything now. With 7, I could go in there and do some serious damage. I might be able to slot the Inquisitor in, and suddenly that unit becomes open season for even my Dragon, let alone my Avatar or Dryad. So I'm pretty happy with that. But because there's only 4 of them, I'm like, that's not going to happen. So what I do is I go Hail Mary and charge against the Knights, and I make it on a 10. So they're in now. So that was it. So we made a mistake there. And now I've got 4 Wild Huntsmen in there. And I'm pretty happy. That's still a lot of attacks. In other moves on my right to left, I was umming and from left to right, I was umming and ahhing about this, but actually what I decided was to block in the steed tanks so he couldn't run past and do some other stuff. So I've moved both sets of dryads, the small and the big one, and effectively, if he goes into the big dryads, he gets stuck there probably, and then the Avatar comes around and smashes him. If he charges the small unit dryads, again, he hits them, and then he gets charged by the big Avatar and gets smashed. To prevent him coming forward, I've moved one of my unit of Heath Hunters in front of the Great Swords in the centre. So that's 1 Heath Hunters. They were the ones on the left. I've moved them forward, and they're there to chaff the Great Swords, and that gives me great freedom to advance my Avatar with no risk, and stops him coming forward to block up any advance. His Great Swords blocking off. If they advance really quite far, they could block my Avatar charging into a steam tank, and then I've ruined the move. So it also allows my Dragon to move up aggressively, and this was just so I can make sure I can cast, but also cast Summer's Growth onto the Wild Huntsman if I can. And it's also out of arc of the Imperial Guard on the right, who have now got nothing in front of them, because what I don't want with this unit is the Inquisitor popping out and just munching all over the place. Otherwise, I've left my Blade Dancers in the centre because they can countercharge the Great Swords if necessary. And I've again got my 2 Pathfinders up because into the centre a bit more with one of the last unit Heath Hunters. The idea is I'm going to pepper this unit of marksmen and just get them really, really down so they're nothing, and see if I can break that Alchemy Master out. so that he has to go somewhere else, and it just limits the options he's got to hide in. In Magic, I do get Oaken thrown off, and this is where Master of Earth would have been really useful, because I could have cast it on either his buff wagon, but also this unit of I could either kill the militia, or I could have taken some off on his marksman, because actually in my shooting I get them down to less than 1 rank in the alchemy. Like 3 or 4 there could have just done some real damage. I think if I'd done that and taken a risk, I'd have flown this further forward and tried to breath weapon them. As it was, I didn't, and that's probably a problem. The other spells I got off were Forest Embrace on my character, but more importantly, I got Spirit of the Wood off on the big unit of great swords in the center. So if he's going into my chaff and charges them, and gets an overrun and does everything else, at least he gets a load of DTs for it as well. So hopefully I can whittle that unit down a bit. In combat, there's only one combat, and that's the Wild Huntsman. So I've got 4 3s are 12. They're 3 attacks each on a charge with battle focus. 4 3s are 12 plus champion 13. I roll, and I roll that many battle focus that I actually get more attacks than I started with. I don't get a Summer's Growth off them, unfortunately. I then get through, and I manage to get 13 wounds. So 13 wounds, AP3 on a 1-up save, so I'm like 4. So maybe I hit 6 or 7. I kill 2. He makes 11 out of 13 saves. I was like, oh, that's not good. So there's me thinking here, okay, my right flank is not only... I was thinking at that moment, I was like, yeah, I've got it in the bag. Goes to show you shouldn't count your chickens. And then he proceeds to strike back and kills. Sorry, why did I do that? What was that? Oh, that was just close up with the magic. So yeah, Forest Embrace and Ruin. Yeah, cool. 1. So he kills 1, and then I strike back, and I've killed. Oh no, so I kill 2. I've got a banner. Basically, he holds, or it's a draw, or something like that. No, I win by 1, but he holds. But in short, that's it. I was really surprised. So I've still got 3 left. Yeah, they've held them for a turn, so he's not going to be able to advance with them on his turn. So I felt that was really lucky. I think that was the big bit there. Right, his turn 2. The big thing in the center, so the steam tank goes into the small unit of dryads. Now I was really shocked at this, because there's 2 parts to this. One, the small unit of dryads he's probably going to kill, and then my tree father kills them, which cool. If he goes into the big dryads, he holds them up because he's not blocking me now, and I can suddenly advance this way. I can advance my big unit of dryads left into the center and threaten his greatswords, and it's easier for my avatar to charge him in next turn. So I didn't get that, but maybe if Darren says why he did that, I'm not sure, but that I was very happy with that. On this, he did. Sorry, there's no big overarching picture, but he didn't charge the greatswords in the center because of the spirits of the wood, because he would have lost them needlessly, and he's got enough magic and shooting around there. But you'll notice he has put the avatar, the alchemy master, in the center here, in his big unit greatswords in the center. So he's probably right to do that, because I'd have massacred them in that unit next turn. Otherwise, he shot all his stuff, but he didn't kill them, so they didn't run, and the Heath Hunters are still there. So he's still got this chaff unit in his way, which is brilliant. Then we go to combat. He didn't get any buffs off. No, I've got 3, so I've got less attacks this time. So there's only 2 attacks each, so that's 6, plus the champion 7. Yes, with battle focus and stuff, but only AP 2 this time. I kill 3. So I've killed more with less. And less strength and less AP. So yeah, don't ask the logic, but he kills 2. And in essence, it's another push, I think. Because by this point, I haven't got a banner, so I've killed more, but here's a banner, so it's a push. It's equal numbers. So that's fine. But it's starting to look like in my turn that unit's going to die. So it's not great. So I've got to think about how to deal with that. Yeah, Empire of Sunsol turn 2. He's moved his riders past, and he does shoot at my Pathfinder. I don't think he kills any just because he's so inaccurate and doesn't really do anything. But his steam tank, it does kill my small unit of Dryads, but he can't overrun. And you can see in the bottom picture that my avatar is just there. It was a, I think I needed to roll like double one or 2-on-1 not to charge in there. So this is my turn. I had a choices here. So I had a choice to charge the avatar in, but I had a choice to charge the Dryads in as well. I chose not to because one, I'd just be giving him combat res with the grind attacks and his steam gun and stuff like that. So everything that could have hurt him. And also by moving, because he didn't kill the chaff last turn, I've got a threat here from my Dryads. So I've got a flank here. So suddenly into his great swords, his buff wagon, everything's not looking that great. So the other bit I do is I advance my dragon into the center because he's moved his other thingies round, his other Imperial Guard on the right round. So what I'm doing here is I'm blocking him with my small unit Dryads, sacrificing because I don't think I'm going to get the objective on this side. And then also moving my Pathfinders around with the Heath Hunters 1 because I want to shoot these Riders and just get the points off. And the other bit here is just to make sure I can deal with the unit of Marksmen and just get rid there. So that was my plan. And also it means I'm threatening his buff wagon with my dragon if I need to. So my intent here was to cast another Spirit of Woods or Summer's Growth. So what I do is I force through Summer's Growth on my magic phase, and I get 2 more Wild Hunts of Access. Now it's 3 versus 3 again, so hopefully I can keep killing them off. And then in shooting, I just start whittling down the marksman unit in the center using all my shooting, and I take off the Briters. So that's there. In combat, I managed to only put 1 wound on the tank, and he does 1 to me, and I think it's a push. Yeah, I charge. He's immobile. He's not going anywhere. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I do get Forest Embrace, so I'm re-rolling ones to wound. So why did I only get so few? I think I just rolled so badly all the way through. Maybe I forgot to re-roll to ones to wound. Or maybe he just saved. Yeah, he saved like an absolute champ. Again. But anyway. In his turn, he obviously charges here, so that's bye-bye Dryads on the right. So that's my small unit Dryads there, and that's pretty much him probably got the objective on this side, unless I can deal with them. He does decide. Oh no, sorry, I didn't get Spirit of the Wood off. He stopped that one. Oh no, sorry, I spent all my magic trying to get Wild Huntsman through. So on my turn, we have a pillow fight. So he doesn't kill any of me. I don't kill any of him this in my last turn. In his turn, he charges into the Heath Hunters because he hasn't got Spirit of the Wood ups, and they're going to die as well. He's also moved to block the Dryads coming in from this side. He's moved his crossbowmen in front to chaff because he's realised that he has a choice then at this point. So either the great swords in the centre move to look to the left towards my big unit Dryads. Blade dancers can charge in the centre in their flank, and the Dryads, and that's bad. And if he moves to the Dryads or after combat face the Blade dancers, it means the Dryads with the ranks can charge in the flank and possibly disrupt them. And there's whole bad stuff there, even with the distracting buff wagon, because then I could also put the dragon in and stuff. It's not very good for him. So he needs to use his chaff. And the other bit is then if he doesn't use them as chaff in the center, I can charge through and go after his buff wagon, which is a lot of points. Cool. Right here. His Empire Sonsdal turn 3, so with magic, he kills off these 2 as well. Sorry, this Heath Hunter unit at the back, I can't remember if he shoots on magic. I think it's magic. I think it's a fireball and he killed them 3, but because of the BSB is literally there, they pass. In shooting, he managed to get a wound through on the dragon. Very bad memories of Darren's light shooting with dragon, so I was a bit like, very glad it's only 1 wound. In combat here on his turn, he still only managed to kill 2, but I kill 2. He wins combat because he's got a banner and I don't anymore, but I stick. So yay! So these guys have been in since my turn 2. So my turn 2, his turn 2, my turn 3, his turn 3. So 4 rounds of combat after going in, and they really shouldn't have survived this long. And they've started to whittle down this unit to 4, which is great. The Dryads unfortunately get killed off between the Inquisitor and all that unit, and it's not great. but yeah, that's probably quite accurate. And then in combat, I go to town on him. I don't take a single wound in return. I've still got the 5, and I put 3 more wounds on him, so he's only got 3 left. So I'm feeling pretty confident on his turn. My turn 4. What I do is I decided not to charge the unit of Imperial Guard on the right with my Blade Dancers, because what I wanted to do was concentrate on bringing back the Wild Huntsman with my magic, rather than, because I have to make a choice then between the Wild Huntsman and that was my choice. Possibly not wise, but it also means the Blade Dancer in the centre can threaten either Imperial Guard unit, because what I've done is I've moved my other last 2 units of Heath Hunters to Chaff, and this is as 2 parts. It's protecting the Blade Dancers and giving them a bit of a choice between the 2 great swords, but also protecting my Tree Father in case I don't kill the steam tank. Because what I don't want to do is have that unit going into the Tree Father. It's just a big no-go. What I've done in this turn with shooting is I've destroyed the final. You can see there's no more marksmen in the center, so I've killed them off. I did have a choice of charging the dragon into that unit there, and I probably should have done that. My big fear was that I'd have hit that, failed, because of the distracting bubble and everything else, that I'd just get stuck on there. He kills this unit in his turn, turns around and then kills me slow time over that. So what I did, so I just took a look, and oh yeah, that was the other point. That was why the Inquisitor is on the right. He turned to face into the center very cleverly, because it meant if my dragon went in here, he's got an easy charge, and then that Inquisitor with strength 5, multi-wound 2, lethal strike. It kills my dragon. I lose to it. So that's what I did. So that's why I took the decision that that wasn't right. I don't get any magic off on them. It's a bit of a fluff phase, and what he ends up doing is killing my Wild Huntsman. So, unfortunately, but it does take 5 rounds of combat to do it, and they've still killed, and they've mitigated that to the Knights to 4. So he can't really use that to go after the objective, and my dragon can kill them off if necessary. If he wants to come in, I'm quite happy with him taking a charge into me if he faces me. But it's risky for him more than it is for me. In this round, I only do 1 wound to him, so and I take a wound in return. So he's only got 2 wounds left, but I need to kill those 2 wounds. He doesn't go into my sorry, and I've managed to get Spirits of the Wood. I don't get Summer's Growth on, but I do manage to get Spirit of the Wood off onto his great swords. And as you can see here in combat, I do kill his small unit and I overrun, so I'm out of range of the great swords, but it does mean he has to move his buff wagon. Empire Sunstorm, he charges my Heath Hunters because he's like, I've got to get rid of them because he thinks his avatar is going to be out, and it's just a load of stuff there that he's just got to deal with. He kills but unfortunately he loses 5 on the way in, so that's good. I'm starting to whittle them down. But he does kill. He does kill that. Importantly, when you look at this game, he's managed to get perception of strength up on me, so I'm -1 strength, -1 AP. That's massive. So not only am I wounding on 4s, but he's got a 4-up save, and then he's also got Glory of Gold, so he's re-rolling. His attacks on the steam tank were flammable, so he's re-rolling. So he's wounding on 5s, but with a re-roll, so it's quite dangerous this turn. So yeah, it's not looking great for that. So he does a wound to me, and I only do a wound to him, so he's still got wounds. But what he doesn't do, because he does the other combat first and kills the Heath Hunters, he then moves. He gives me the choice of moving first, so I go, yeah, okay. So I test a reform, and I move to the right-hand side there, and I'm out of arc. Haha, sneaky as. So, yeah, so sorry. So it goes from, so my edge goes from there to there, so I'm still in contact, but now he can't see me. Yes, haha. So I think I did that on that turn, so I'm still safe. And then in my Sylvanel's turn 5, I do end up killing him finally. In my turn, I also decide to, on the right, I move my Blade Dancers up, and I trap, because what he does on his turn 5 is he moves the knights on the right and just moves them around behind the building. And I was like, I'm going to just chase them here. It's far more important I just concentrate on his points, and I go after his Imperial Guard on the right with the Inquisitor. So I trap them between my Blade Dancers and my Dragon. He still doesn't want to go in. I can't remember what spell I got off that list. I think I got one of the Spirit. I go definitely get one of the wood spells off on my Blade Dancers just to make them stubborn. So yeah, you can go in 3+ Aegis and all the rest of it, and then I kill them. In my turn 5, I've obviously killed off the steam tank finally and just turned to face into the centre. I've manoeuvred my Dryads around just so his buff wagon's going to have to skedaddle. I did think about moving it towards the archers, but I just thought I wanted on turn 5 just to give him some options. I think I should have moved them further around to threaten the great swords, but just for a turn 6. But I think I was trying to conserve points at this point. One thing I have done on this one is I've started unleashing onto the Pathfinders, so I've managed to take off a rank of them. So his unit's actually going down. It's only 5, it's only 13, so he's lost about 10 of them, so he's not as many left yet. In terms of his EoS, so what he does is he realizes that. So what he does is he moves up his crossbowman on the left just to shoot at my tree father. He moves his great swords around there so that I can charge, but all I'm going to do is I'm going to do nothing. I'm going to just move him out of the way and keep him away. He moves his buff wagon out of range, so I can't actually do anything with it. He then buffs as many points into his what they called his the Imperial Guard as possible. So they've got they've got Glory of Gold on my Blade Dancers. Somebody's re-rolling. He managed to get Divine Attacks off. No, Word of Iron. So they're on a 1-up save. And I stopped Quicksilver Lash. And my reasoning was I had to stop Quicksilver Lash because my Tree Father was only on so many wounds left. So I just didn't want to lose the general now, because then I would have lost the game. Because I was pretty sure I couldn't take the objective. I had only one scoring unit left. It wasn't near the objective. I couldn't get it to the other objectives, so I couldn't draw it. So I wanted to kill this unit and play Attention Inquisitor, and then maybe the draw. I charge in, I choose Lethal Strike, and I just wipe them out. The unit's gone. He kills one with the Inquisitor, and then he auto breaks, and I fail to catch both of them. I fail to run into the what is it called? I fail to catch Inquisitor Siege running, and I fail to get into the Knights because he'd moved them up on the right, and then I overran. And I was 1 inch away with both my Blade Dancers and the Giant Dragon, so I would have had a turn on his with a charge and tax. I mean, if I got both of them in, that would have, well, if I got the Blade Dancer in the very least, or even the Dragon, that could have been Knights gone as well. And I think that would have been another couple of 100 points or something like that. But as it was, I defeated this Imperial Guard, and that's how it ended, with some very bloody stuff. So I think the tactic worked. In terms of thinning out shooting, because what it meant is actually so I think reviewing it in terms of tactics, not dropping first was a good idea because it meant he had to come out and play, and that forced him to maneuver around and gave me gaps to move through. The other part was splitting my troops and having the Dryads on the left to move in and sort of do a flanking maneuver was good because one, it added another threat and I managed to pick up some points. I also didn't lose them, so I've managed to save 400 points that normally I lose in this matchup, I think. I've killed the steam tank. The avatar's getting a pretty good thing. I need to start keeping count. I think it's like 5 or 6 steam tanks and infernal engines at this time. I mean, he's just an absolute killer for them. I haven't lost my dragon, which is usually something I end up doing because of small arms fire, because the pathfinders have been just dominated and just made his small arms fire just not that effective. Having the binding scroll was also really, really useful. I think probably if I'd realised, I think my only thoughts is at the moment the magic is a little weak. I think I should have chosen Master of Earth in 20 routes. It would have had much more value, and I think it would have given me options to kill more of his units. I think I would have taken off and possibly just keep plinking away at his some of his units just to whittle them down and do that, and maybe after his knights a bit as well, and just giving him some difficult options. So I think I need to think about that. But other than that, and then I've kept my blade dance alive. I've killed one of his Imperial Guard units. I could have killed the knight. I could have killed the Inquisitor. I think that would have been it. As it was, he won because he got the objective, but I got more points. And I think actually, if I manage to catch the Inquisitor, that's 180 extra points. If I manage to get the knights, that's another 400 something. I think if I got the knights and the Inquisitor, I would have got it. But otherwise, I think an interesting game. Um, and I think the big mistake I made at a micro level was moving the Wild Huntsman into range of the marksman, because if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't have lost as many. I think the sheer number of attacks would have just ruined. I I, I think I would have absolutely ruined the Knight's bust, broken their steadfast, just ran them off the board, and then that's me winning that side very quickly. And it's a completely different game. But other than that, very well played from Darren. He dominated the centre and he kept me going. I didn't think he played the steam tank as well. I think he should have just gone into the big unit. But other than that, because that would have fixed one of my sides for ages. But other than that, he won the game. So well played to him. He did right by the Imperial Guard, and it's a tough nut to crack. Two Imperial Guard units. It may not have the same level of shooting as a big gun line, but it really, really does hurt, especially a unit like mine. But other than that, I think I did well. I only lost those three chaff units on my Wild Huntsman, which is kind of expected. So, yeah, pretty happy. Um, Other than that, I think that's it. In terms of the game, I actually really like it. I think it's one of those it's the longest I've spent deploying in a long while, because I think it's just both of us were having a think about it, and it was quite fun. I think we had to push for time at the end, but it was one of those games where inches generally mattered. Good pun there. Um, cool. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope to get some more out soon and quickly. I'm trying to speed up. But yeah, no, it's a great game. Hope you enjoy, and thank you for listening.